I see no but. Hello, 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 and welcome to PitchZone. It's Thursday, PitchZone Day, and I am absolutely delighted to talk with our guest today because there is a parallel that I see between cartooning and presenting. In essence, we try to be as concise as possible. And so it is my great, great delight to bring in today's guest today. Let's bring him right in. Stan Brown. Stan Brown, an author, cartoonist, and game designer. Stan, it's so great to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Claudio. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, usually we do these episodes here with my co-host Nathan Gold. He's missing in action today. He had a conflict, so he might be joining us later in the comment section. So for now, it's you and me, of course, Stan, and our viewers online. And I see we have Anthony from San Francisco. Anthony, it's great to see you again. Real pleasure, and I look forward to next week when you will be our guest at PitchZone. And then we have Rick Pollack. Rick also joins us almost every single week. Real pleasure to see you again, Rick. And you will be another guest in about a month from now. So looking forward to that as well. And we have Massimo Peroncelli joining us all the way from Thailand, staying up late just to see what we are offering here, because the link may not be all that obvious, right, Stan? We had this discussion yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, prepping a little bit for today's episode, and you were wondering and said, what does a cartoonist do on a show about pitching and presenting? Well, the answer to me is very, very obvious. It's all about being concise. It's all about finding the right metaphors to get across a point into not just the minds, but the hearts of an audience. And of course, as a cartoonist, you do this for a living. You're taking any thought that is out there and you are putting it into perhaps one panel, perhaps 2 or 3 panels to tell an entire story. So Stan, I am delighted to have you on the show here today. And before we are kicking it off, and we have a surprise for our audience later on, because you are a master of improv cartooning. So we'll get to that. But before we get to it, how did you become a cartoonist?
The quick answer is I never stopped drawing. We all, when we're kids, everyone loves to draw, and at some point you just kind of stop. You either put rules around yourself that you're not good enough, or you find something else that you'd rather do. I just never stopped and found ways to apply that, and helped that I continue to love reading cartoons, both long-form comic books and newspaper comic strips, and I developed a love for single-panel cartoons. I think that certainly was a big help, but in either way, I never stopped drawing, and as a result, there are a lot of one of the cartoonists out there I like to watch has a saying that you can't get worse at something you do every day.
True. And I, for one, I'm so glad that you never stopped drawing, because I think the world is a better place for that. So keep on drawing. Yes. Yep. And we also very quickly, I want to say hello to Chris. Chris, it's a real pleasure having you here as well, all the way from Canada. Real pleasure. And so let's get this really off the ground here, right? The thing that I'm most interested in, Stan, is the creative process. What's going on inside of your mind when you are tasked with creating a cartoon, creating an image, creating a visual representation of a thought that's in your mind or perhaps even in somebody else's mind that commissions you to do a drawing. So how do you usually work?
So when I think that one of the things about cartooning and various forms of cartooning is they're about exaggeration, and anything that's about exaggeration is going to be about taking something as it is and finding the parts that you want to accentuate, or either for humor or for political points or just just for style. And that's that's the craft that you're practicing when it's simplification and exaggeration. And so, having practiced that, it the creative process now for me is about finding the idea that I want to work with and looking at it and finding the points that I find most interesting, whether that's visually or conceptually. Depends on whether I'm going, like, for a caricature. It's all visual. When you're looking at someone's face, what do you want to emphasize? What do you want to de-emphasize? How, what can you uh, expand to really draw attention to? When you're doing a cartoon, it's it starts the same thing with an idea. I want to do a cartoon about the husband and wife at home. What kind of things happen that uh, that are day-to-day interactions that you can draw something out of? Um, I did one during the pandemic when everyone was doing sourdough. Everyone was making sourdough starters, and they were always talking about feeding their sourdoughs. And I kept thinking about what's going to happen when you get bored with that and you stop feeding it. That poor sourdough is going to be really hungry. And so I wound up kind of taking the idea and playing around with it, and I came up with a cartoon which has. You know what? I'm actually, since we've got this thing here, I can show you the cartoon.
Oh, I would love to see it. I would love to. And while you're pulling it up there, Stan, let me quickly address our viewers here because I assume that we all love cartoons. That's perhaps one of the reasons why you joined us here. I'll get back to that in just a moment. Let's bring this one up. Hey, honey. When was the last time you fed your sourdough starter? Oh my God, I love it. I love it. It seems to be a very, very hungry sourdough starter. So, yes, I absolutely love it. How long does something like this take you to create something like this?
Uh, so, uh, so the process will be, I'll have a page in my notebook where I'm putting down ideas in sketch format. And when I come up with one I like, uh, then the process is an hour or two to
Oh,
get
wow.
it.
Okay. Okay. Now, our
All
show
finished
is
up.
only 45 minutes. We already talked for a
Right.
good 10 minutes so far. So that leaves 30 minutes, roughly, more or less. So let's get this
Well, I'll tell
going.
you, one thing that
Yeah.
makes it easier is one of my current projects is a weekly show where I do improv cartooning.
Yeah.
And the idea there is now what I showed you is something that's ready for print. What we're going to get out of this is something that's not quite ready for print, but will look good and have enough finished appeal. But I wouldn't send it to a publisher. But the idea is uh, to get it down quickly. Now, to do that takes about 15 minutes. I usually get a drawing done from a random inspiration. That's the a hook of the show I do is I don't know what I'm going to draw, and I use some randomization methods to create an idea, and then I come up with it and I draw it right there while folks are watching.
All right, all right. So let's see if we can tickle your creative juices here. And Nathan just joined us here as well from Fremont in the comment section. Nathan, glad you still could make it. Happy to have you in the comment section here today. So, Stan, let's dive in. We have a couple of viewers right now, and I'm sure one of our viewers would like to see perhaps their favorite metaphor turned into a cartoon or any other topic. So, for those that are watching us live right now, if you have a favorite metaphor, put it into the comment. Or if you would like Stan to draw something that's on your mind and put on his twist. Again, he's a master at improv cartooning. Let's see what's coming up. One of my favorite metaphors would be something like the proof is in the pudding. And maybe that just came to my mind because I looked at that refrigerator before and was thinking about the sourdough. Nathan has one. Ooh, I like this one. We build machines that turn water into money. And there is a little story behind that. Nathan tells this whenever he is teaching out there, because this is a great, great metaphor. Of course, there is no machine that turns water into money, but it's a metaphor, and there's this guy that sells these turbines that they place into the water, and these turbines ultimately make the owner money. We have another one here, Rick Pollack, and we just bring them up, and Stan will choose the one that clicks the most. Can you tell me you love me without using PowerPoint? Okay.
That one seems like that would be a good cartoon to do and submit to the New Yorker. that's
yes.
funny.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And then we have one from a famous movie here. Life is like a box of chocolates. I think we all know that movie as well. And these were canal turbines. Thank you, Nathan. So, Stan, you wanna run with this one here, or maybe some other viewers? Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of liking the what you were saying about proof being in the pudding, and also
Okay.
looking back at the chat,
Mm-hmm.
Massimo said someone's trash is someone else's treasure. The idea of
Ooh,
having pulling something out of something unexpected out of.
ooh, I love that one as well. That
So
totally zoomed by me here in the comments. Yes, this one. Oh, I love it. Someone's trash is someone else's treasure. You want to run with that one?
let's go with that one.
Let's go with that one. All right. So, and while you do this, Stan, feel free to elaborate on the
Oh
thoughts
yeah.
that are going on in your mind, because that's exactly why we are here, right? So, we have roughly 30 minutes, and the virtual drawing stage is all yours, Stan.
Okay, so let me just readjust this here, and I'm gonna say that when I start thinking about that, I'm gonna work on both the pudding and the trash one at the same time. Right? The idea
Okay.
is that we've got some guy here, and he's got a pudding in front of him, and he's the whatever this is, I have to figure out how that works. But he, you know, maybe pulls out a diamond. Zoom in there, right?
Mhm.
I'm gonna get there, holding his spoon. You know what? Actually, so rather than that, maybe I would have it be that he's got a spoon with the diamond in it. That's not going to fit right visually. So he's scooping up his dessert and he's about to eat it, but he notices that it's a diamond.
And I love it how you already went through 2 iterations, because this is another
Yeah.
principle behind creating a great presentation. It is a process of iteration, right? You're starting out with something, you try it, you test it, you look at it, not that good.
Right.
Okay, let's break it down, build it up again. And this is exactly the same process that I apply when I create a presentation.
Yes, no, and when we were talking about that, that's when it struck me why you thought this was a good match. I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's the same thing. So I might tweak that a little, but if we're gonna, then we have with the someone else garbage is uh, how did it go again?
Someone's
Uh,
trash is someone else's
someone
treasure.
else's treasure. So I might have here, we're gonna have a big pile of trash in the middle, but either I'd have someone coming in with a garbage can that's tossing stuff on there, and someone else on the other side, kind of on their knees, reaching in and pulling out. Again, I'm just going to put a diamond. Diamond's a good metaphor for treasure, for something wonderful, and uh, yeah, I think I'm going to grab that and make it a little smaller so we can keep working on this page. I probably then would, looking at it, it's not quite reading right. So I think that what I'd probably do is make sure it was a bigger trash and we'd have multiple people doing it. So I could have some, I'd like the idea of someone on their knees digging in it, and then someone else could be standing holding it aloft. And that allows us to draw. This first one over here is, it works okay, but there's no real emphasis on this guy, right? There's no
Yep.
visual
Yep.
emphasis on this guy. But if we can do it this way, so these guys are coming in here and this guy's coming in here, this guy's got an upward movement, which allows us to make that will be the visual focus to anyone looking at it.
Now, watching you here draw, right? And Nathan was curious as well. What product are you using? You're using an iPad, right?
I'm using an iPad and an app called Procreate.
Procreate. All right. Procreate on the iPad. Now, this must have been a godsend gift to you because
Ooh,
when I
yeah.
watch you drawing right now, right, it's like no more eraser, no more pencil to, So
Yeah.
when did you start? When did you turn digital?
In 2018, when the
Okay.
iPad Pro was released.
Yep.
So I'd wanted to do digital early, and well, I guess I started doing partial digital back in about 2000, where I would do the drawing in physical medium. I would do the pencils and the inks, and then I would scan it and finish it on a computer using Photoshop.
All right. All right.
But at that point, yeah, I think I like this one. I think this is the one we're gonna go with.
Okay.
At that point, uh, I a lot of people were starting to work um, digitally with tablets, but they weren't touch sensitive tablets. So you had to have a tablet that you held in front of you and you drew on, but you had to look up at the screen while you were doing it. And I could not get the hang of that. I don't think it's something that it was impossible for me to master, but I needed a lot of work to um, to get that skill, and it wasn't happening. Okay, so I've copied what we drew there, and I've pasted it onto another layer so I can get a rough layout of what we're talking about here. And I'm going to position it. I'm also going to drop the opacity on it because I'm going to want to draw that. Going to want to sketch that again before I go. It if I was doing this as quickly as possible, I would just go to a drawing from this, right? Because we want to get it done, and keep the entertainment flow going. But we're having a conversation, so I can have a little extra. I can give myself a little
Exactly.
extra.
Exactly. And Massimo is commenting that he loves to see this creation in real time. He could watch these things forever. I guess this is yet another episode that must have a follow-up. Well, Massimo, we'll see how far we get today. And yes, this I love this as well. And um, Anthony is commenting that your iterative process is fascinating. And that's exactly why I wanted to have you here today, because I've seen you do this before. Again, Stan has a weekly show where he's doing improv cartooning. I will put the link to Stan's channel into the description on YouTube. It's absolutely fascinating. I sometimes just tune in, and even if I work on something else, I just watch it with a half an eye, and I'm always fascinated. So now it's starting to take on a little bit more details, I can see. So you're starting out with the very rough outline, and then start to fill in more and more details.
Right. Well, now that I'm going back the second time, I'm giving. So the first one, everything was very, very blobby. Now I'm beginning to think more about, all right, when I finish it, I need to make sure that the things are in whatever proportion I'm going to want them to have. Now, again, because it's a cartoon, there's a lot of room for things to not be precise, but they still need to have roughly the. If you want people to read it as a person, you've got to um, you've got to. I would say you can't make them stop and say it doesn't work like that. Or you don't have to get it right. You just can't get it so wrong that it stops their acceptance. It's like what's the phrase from never mind. I'm not going to come up with it right now, but their willingness to just go along with you.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So I mean, if I were to have this guy who's bent over like this, have his back be up like this, and he's standing on his feet instead of. It's hard to see what I'm talking about. All right, so right there we've got a guy. We've got his head. He's reaching out. He's kneeling, and you can see the rough idea of what he looks like. If I were instead to have a guy who's reaching in, but his back goes up like this, and his feet are on the ground, you might say, "What in the world is going on? Why? I don't understand that." And suddenly you're out of the picture. You're worried about that detail, which is not important, right? This guy is not really important to the cartoon, so it's key that you just make sure that the details you put in are true enough that they don't stop the viewer. And I think that goes along with any kind of metaphor, whether it's visual or spoken. If you when you're creating your metaphor, if you get too crazy and people don't understand what it is that you're saying, or say, "Well, that doesn't work," then they're not going to listen to the point you're making.
Correct. Yep. So this is taking on some nice shapes now.
All right, you know what? I'm going to change that from a diamond to a trophy.
Oh, a trophy. Okay. Even better. Treasure. All right. And you're working very, very fast. I mean, this is amazing. Is this the standard where other cartoonists work about at that
It's,
pace, or are you considering yourself fast or slow?
I think I work fast.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I you know everyone's. I don't think you'd easily find a thing that you could say most cartoonists do X or Y. Everyone's got their own way about it. I think that at the beginning, at the stage where we were at before, the stage where we're just sketching,
Mm-hmm.
probably most cartoonists work about that speed. You're
Yeah.
just kind of putting something down on the page. Uh, then once you get to this stage, everyone's going to have their own uh, comfort zone. I like to work fast. I really
Mm-hmm.
like to work fast.
Yeah.
I think that one of the reasons why cartooning is the art form that I developed for myself is that that's my preference. I don't. I found when I did have to when I took art courses, which were hugely informative for me, but the art teachers didn't really like what I did because I didn't want to take a drawing and work it and keep working it and massaging it and trying to get it right. And if you're going to do fine art or even strongly representational art, that you probably have to do that. Whereas if you're doing something which is metaphor based, I can put down a two two lines like that, and I've got a body. I've got something I can work with. If I was being representational, the proportions are all wrong, and no one's body works like that. You want to make sure that the head is the right size. It's a body is 8 heads high, and all the other rules, um, and so uh, that takes time. That takes
Yep.
time and effort.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
this takes effort too. I didn't want to make it sound like it didn't, but it definitely takes time to develop. Right? It's a kind of
Yep.
like a lot of different things. The lot of cooking processes. You you need to take time to get all the flavors out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes you want to open a can of beans and make some toast and have a nice snack.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Anyway, so I'm gonna say that these are gonna be our guys here. I'm gonna put them in overalls. Make sure they have gloves on. And here, what I'm doing is just putting little notes to myself, visual notes to myself, um, that I can use when I come back to put to do a more finished drawing. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I would get to about that stage now. Let's say for the kind of improv cartooning or quick cartooning that I do, that's about as much detail as I'd put in.
Yep.
Um, if I was doing more like the finished piece, I would spend some more time and make sure that uh, that I got the details right. There's a lot here, particularly in the middle, where I've just drawn a big lump, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put something there. But if I was doing like when we were looking at that the sourdough one. There was
Mm-hmm.
a counter, there was a kitchen, there was a lot there that I wanted to make sure looked right. So I would there would be a lot more layout and just double
Yep.
checking that everything was in place.
Yep. Yep.
So,
We have another roughly 15 minutes. How far can you get
okay,
this?
how far can we get this? Well, let's see. I'm going to make a new layer. So we're working on top of that, and I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to come back and I'm going to start working in um, black ink. All right, so now I'm going to zoom in so I can focus on one guy here. And now these are things, what I'm doing now, that come from experience, from having done this a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times. I'm adding
Yep.
character to these. characters, right? Rather than just the standard lumpy shape. You see, I've
Mm-hmm.
given
Mm-hmm.
this guy's nose and eyes a particular shape, which give him a feeling, I think, that goes along with the job we're having him do.
Nathan is commenting that now it's coming to life. Wow. And this is exactly the reaction that I had the first time I saw you do these things, right? At the very beginning, I was like, okay, there is no way that this is turning out into a real cartoon. And then all of a sudden, you started to add a layer, the real layer. And once you made the other ones then go away, I was floored. Oops. And another great comment here by Nathan. We just learned a new technique to iterating. Draw over the previous scribble. And this is exactly
There you
how.
go.
Right. So you don't have to always break it down and build it up again. Sometimes you can just build on top of what you already have. Absolutely. And this is kind of like. Nathan also had a question about how do you suggest we use this technique when presenting or pitching? And I think you just, with continuing it like this, you just answered that question as well. This brings a new meaning to mind mapping. Yes. Now, I wish I could map my mind as easily onto a piece of paper or onto an iPad, but of course I don't. And I'm sure there are other people watching this either live or on replay that are wondering, how can they hone their own cartooning skills? What do you recommend,
So,
Stan?
you know what? I just watched a video this morning,
Mm-hmm.
which I linked on to my Facebook. I thought it was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
This guy
Mm-hmm.
was talking about um, he he had some art background, but he didn't have enough time to do it, and he wanted to, and he discovered that uh, he realized that he had this time every day when he got up and he while he was making his morning cup of tea, that he was just sitting around and waiting for the tea
Mm-hmm.
to boil, and so he's put a notepad by his teacup, and while the tea is boiling,
Yeah.
he spent 10 minutes just doing a simple drawing, just a little sketch.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, over the course of a year or so, he wound up with a sketchbook filled with drawings that he could look at and see that just by the practice of doing it every day, he had sharpened his skills a lot. And he'd improved and gone from, you know, where he was at the stage where he wasn't doing any drawing at all to the
Mm-hmm.
point where now he had some confidence. And I think that like I say, he started with some level of skill, but the same thing applies to beginners. If you just take uh, 10 minutes, sorry, the hair always gets me. I have to stop and think about hair.
Just draw ball, guys.
um, if you just find a little time to do sketching, sketch what you see in front of you. Sketch. He was
Mm-hmm.
sketching his teacup every day, which I don't know. That seems a little boring to me. Not sure that was for everyone. But his point was he already knew what he was doing. He just wanted to practice. Sketch something you see in front of you. The 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 cup of the coffee you're going to drink, or the can of the coffee that you got the coffee grounds out of, or your cat, and just keep it very simple and draw the same thing a couple of times, maybe over the course of the week, and before you move on to drawing something else. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you will find that as you go along, your ability to draw that thing will improve, and your overall ability will improve. Um, which leads to the second thing that um, I always say when I'm teaching. I'll sometimes do these anyone can draw classes, even you. And one of the main points there is that uh, one of the things that holds people back is they expect a certain level of um, artistic excellence
Mm-hmm.
out of themselves, and if they don't reach it, they say, "Well, then I did a bad drawing."
Yep.
But
Yep.
my assertion is that if you draw something and you show it to someone and they know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good drawing. Right? The point
Yes.
of a drawing is that you're
Yep.
communicating an idea. Now, of course, style eventually comes into it, but as long as you put something on paper and people understand what it is, you have successfully communicated your idea with a drawing. Okay, so here we have a mostly finished thing. Since we're on the clock, we're going to stop there. I
Mm-hmm.
also then often will come in and I'm going to add some color
Mm-hmm.
because people like colorful things. I have a brush that I like to use, which has a very crayony,
Yep.
marker-ish feel,
Yep.
which makes it easier to. When it has that feeling, people are willing to forgive it being sloppy because that's what they associate with
Mm-hmm.
uh, that medium. Uh, okay,
And must.
and
Mm-hmm.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, Massimo just left a comment here that, again, there is a parallel here because if you give a pitch and people understand what it's about and what you're asking for, it's a good pitch.
Yeah.
And yes, yes, absolutely. And it's amazing how it comes to life now with the colors. To me, the colors are almost like using adjectives in your language, right? You are giving it a
Hmm.
little bit an accent. You're adding something that wasn't there before. This is truly, truly great. Nathan comments that amazing magic right going on right in front of our eyes today. No photoshopping going on here. No, that's true.
Yeah.
No photoshopping at all. Yeah, this is really, really fascinating to see this now come to life with the colors. Absolutely amazing.
And there's another thing that you practice. This all comes from practice, right? I could spend I could spend hours, and when I'm doing full on drawings, I often do just trying to make sure the color is the right color, and tweaking it. Like, is this the gold I want for it? No, it's not quite where I want it to be, but uh, you know, for
Uh-huh.
a quick drawing, I don't worry about that.
Correct. Yep.
I get
Yep.
I get the color that's about right. I put it down, and it works. And make the brush a little bigger so I can come in. Get some garbage.
No Leonardo AI and no Mid Journey 2. Yes, this is still the old way of doing things. The drawing doesn't have to be perfect to make your point clearly. Rick comments here, and
Exactly.
that's absolutely it. Yes.
And that's one of the things you find as a cartoonist. Um, the people who love cartoons will look at what you drew, and uh, not pick it apart, but critique the quality of the drawing. Most people who look at a cartoon, once they get the idea, they move on to the next one. They don't care. They look at this and they say, "What a great cartoon!" If it
Yep.
appeals to them,
Yep.
and they don't care. I look at this guy here and I go, "Oh, I didn't really finish the face, and it's a little sloppy what I did there." But
Yep.
most of your viewers, most of I've come to recognize that I don't need to worry about that for most viewers. Um, and I think the same goes through with your presentations. Most people who are looking at your presentation, if you can get them to understand the idea,
Yep.
then that's 90% of it.
Yep. Yep.
And it's only for the experts that that other 10% is really important.
Ah, so nice, so nice, so nice. And I think that's exactly the same with pitches as well, right? It's like, yeah, as Massimo said, if you can get it across, yeah. And of course, some of our experts might say, oh, well, he could have had a stronger opening, or, well, that call to action wasn't right there. But yeah, that's the experts. Now, before we are getting to the end, Stan, let me ask
Yes.
you about emotions. You usually, whether you're giving a pitch or whether you're drawing a cartoon, you want to evoke some kind of an emotion.
Yes.
Where does that fall into your process in terms of, are you asking yourself, what do I want the audience to feel? Or how do you evoke that emotion?
So I think the majority of that is going to be decided for me when I've got the topic that whatever the here, like I say, we're looking at someone's trash is someone else's treasure. I know I want the guys on the left who's trash to have kind of a neutral expression, and the guy on the right who's found the treasure to look happy.
Yep.
And then it's a matter of having identified that, finding the right exaggerations to pull that forward.
Yep. Yep.
There we go. And then how good you are at doing that is like a lot of the other things I said. It's a matter of practice. The more you've done it, the more you can quickly do a version of it. Right? I've done enough faces, enough blah faces, and enough happy faces to know if I have this shape and this construction, or this guy with the big smile and the eyes forward. I've drawn versions of that face hundreds of times, so
Yeah.
I'm just redoing it.
And here is an
This
observation.
here is a little weirder, and I haven't drawn that a lot, and as a result, I think that's of the faces here the one that conveys the least message.
All right.
Which is okay. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that's just as a factual statement.
Yeah.
This guy, that way that mouth goes,
Yeah.
the
The
half-moving eyes,
nose.
the cranky nose to
Nose.
kind of help sell that he's a guy that works with his hands. It's it all kind of comes together.
Right, right. And here is an observation that Massimo made, and you may not even make these decisions consciously anymore because you are such a pro, but Massimo noticed that the colors on the left are what he calls dead, while the ones on the right are alive, right? And so for you, it's just reaching into that color palette, and you do it probably intuitively.
Yeah. Well, I think again, it's a learned procedure. I knew our guys on the left are its emotion is down there, so those are the kind of colors you put in,
Yep.
and you want a brighter colors for the guys
Yep.
that are happy. He's right. Good catch. Good catch.
Absolutely. And I hope, Massimo, we are truly running out of time here, but Massimo, I think, or I hope that you are happy with the result, with the visualization of turning someone else's trash or someone's trash into someone else's treasure. And our live viewers here are greatly, greatly thankful to you, Stan, for sharing the possibilities of your creations and giving us a glimpse into your creative process behind it. So finishing touches here, one person's trash is another treasure, another's treasure, and I'm curious what you're going to do with this now.
Yeah, I just move it around.
Okay.
Center's on the page, and there we go. That's our
All right. All right. Well, you deserve an absolutely great applause. This is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And my mind is blown. Massimo is very happy with this as well. And Rick thanks you as well. Nathan, applause. And of course, we do have an applause button for that as well. Stan, what a great pleasure. Again, I think 45 minutes is not even coming close to really distilling your genius that you just put on display here. So anybody who is interested in watching Stan do his work, his art, his craft, his magic, tune into his show. When is it usually, your improv?
It actually is in about 11 hours.
In about 11
Thursday
hours.
Evenings, Pacific time at 6 p.m.
All right. And before we run off here, if you haven't subscribed yet to this channel, you know what to do. There are buttons that you can click that like and subscribe and the bell and whatever it is. And of course, comments in the comment section as well. And with that, Stan, thank you so much for showing up here bright and early for you. It's an ungodly hour. I know you are in Seattle. It's not even 8 o'clock or just
a little godly.
just so thank you so much. And everybody who joined us here live, thank you. And thank you for your comments, making this engaging. And we shall see each other again next week. In the meantime, everybody enjoy a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we shall see each other again soon.
Thanks for having me. Bye.